Good morning everyone, I am Dozie. In this video, I'll be showing you how to build an image slider using only HTML and CSS. But before we do that, let's go ahead and demo our image slider and see what it will be like when we're done. So this is it. We'll be adding this linear gradients background, then different professions from programmer to chef to doctor to teacher with this scroll effect. So let's get to work. The first thing we are going to do is to create our folder, the one we'll be using, and I'll call this folder image slider. Right here I have a couple of images with different professions, the doctor, the chef and the teacher. You can source any image of your choice. So I'll be moving these images into the folder we created. As you can see, we have it right here. Then open this folder with your code editor. You'll start with creating the HTML file, index.html, and the CSS file, style.css, and convert to this HTML file. Hold down Shift, then 1. I'll modify the title to image slider. Next those. Let's link the CSS file to the image, to the HTML file. So in between this head tag, type out the link. Style.css. Good. The very first thing we'll be doing is to create a div. The div will be containing all we'll be working on, and I'll call this div the container div. And in between this container div right here, I'll create another div and I'll call this one card. This div will be for the individual cards, and in between this card div, I'll create another div for image. I'll call this div image. This image div right here will be holding our image for all our work. So in between this source, I'll start with the programmer image. So right here, I'll just put in the programmer. Delete this or alternate, we don't need it. And give this a class of, give the class of image 1. Good. Next thing we'll be doing right now is we'll add the profession name in H3 tag. So I'll be adding programmer Richard Smith. Then under this place, I'll be adding the lorem ipsum text in the paragraph tag. So get this lorem ipsum text, just type out lorem and click on enter, and that is it. Let's head over to the CSS file and start styling. So the first thing we are going to do right now is to set the background for our styling. So the normal procedure, set the margin to 0, set the padding to 0. I'll set the box sizing to border box. Go over to this HTML file, copy this body, come over here and paste it in the curly brackets. Let's start with the background. You know, I showed you the linear gradient background we'll be using. So the linear gradient code for that is navy and black. Put a comma here and here. You'll be using 140 degrees. Good. and min height. You set it to 100 VH. Then display flex. You set the display to flex. Align items to center. Justify contents to center. Let's run this on live server and see what we've done so far. Okay, no need for all these spaces here. Reduce this space. I reduce this one. So let's run this on live server. Okay, this is what we have here, the image and the text. I'll put this side by side so you see what I'm doing. Go back to the CSS file. Right here, we'll start with styling the container div we created. So copy this container div in the HTML file, over to the CSS and paste it. Set the max width to 400 px and set the width to 100%. Set the padding to 40 px. And the background, I'll be using a special color code for this. I'll use 63, 102, and 63. This is a shade of green, and I like this color. Then border radius. We'll be setting the border radius to, let's set it to 20 px. So that should be good. Then go over to the HTML file, copy this card div we created, come over to the CSS and paste it. Set this background color, let's set it to white. The background color for this text over here. Then the padding, let me see, 20 px. No, make it 25 px. That should be better. Then border radius, we'll set the border radius to make the edge curved. I'll set the border radius to 20 px. Flex direction, I'm setting this to column. Then display will be to flex also. Align items, I'll make this center to position it in the center. Then margin bottom, I'll set this to 4 px. Head over to the HTML file. Let's copy this image over here, this image div, and style this image. Come over here and paste it. I'll start with giving it a height of 140 px. 140 px, not 104. Then a width of 140 px, the same thing. Then I'll give it a padding of 6 px. Then background, I'll be using a color code for this. I'll be giving it a background of RGB 65, 148, 65. if you look behind this image over here, you will see what we've been doing so far. So let me remove this image. Let me just disable it for a few seconds. So let me recap what we've done so far. We set this height to 140px, set the width to 140px also, then set the overall padding to 6px, then the background, we use this color for the background. So the next thing we'll be doing here, we'll be making the border radius 50%. Then the border, I want to add a little bit of styling here, just 3px solid and black. So I'll head over to the HTML file and enable the image again. Good. We'll be styling the image right now. Right in this HTML file, copy this image1 class, then go over to the CSS and paste it. I'll give this a height of 100%. I'll also give it a width of 100%. This is better. Then object fit, let's set it to cover. Then the next one will be the border radius. We'll use it to force this image inside the circle we created. Set this to 60px. Good. Let me make it 70px. Better, even though no much difference. Next one we'll be doing here, go over to the HTML file. We'll be styling this programmer text name here. So copy this h3, come out to the CSS .card, then paste the h3. Set the margin, let's set margin top to 20px. Okay, this is better, yes. Then fonts family, I'm using the Arial font family. Then the font size, let's set it to 25px. It's too big, let's make it 20px. Better. Then we'll style this lorem ipsum text over here. Go back to the HTML file, copy this paragraph tag, come over to the CSS, then paste it. I'll set the margin top to bring it down a little. I'll set the margin top to 10px. The text align to center. And the color, I'll be using a color code for this, a special color code, RGB 65, 62, 62. So this is what we've done so far. Go back to the HTML file. We'll copy this div tag from this card over here, paste it in 4 places. Okay, I think this is good. And I'll modify each of the images. The first one will be programmer image. I'll set the second one to chef lady, and I'll set the third one to doctor. I'll set the fourth one to the teacher. I'll set this last one to the engineer. You can see the image has been modified, remaining the name over here. So I'll be using these special names for this. For this chef lady over here, I'll be using Chef Ngozi Obina. And for this doctor, I'll be using Dr. Harrison Conwell. For this teacher, I'll be using teacher. Let me check out her name again. Teacher Adia. Ishan. Then for the engineer, I'll be using engineer Ahmed Omar. So let's check it out. This is good. So the next thing remaining is to make this in a horizontal manner. Head over to the CSS file. In between this container div over here, we'll be styling it a bit. So in between this container div, we'll be adding display to flex, then gap. We'll set this gap to 10px. Good. Then overflow. Overflow X to scroll. Okay. Then between this card div over here, we'll style it, give it a flex of 100%, and we are done with this code right now. So as you can see, we are done with this project. This is what we've created with the scroll effects and all, and the background with linear gradients effects. We've come to the end of this video. If you like this video, consider giving it a like, a share, and don't forget to subscribe to know when next we release our next video. Thanks for watching.